Welcome to Encounter, where you can meet up with interesting people and watch them share their experiences. Who knows, they may touch your lives as well.
That's right, we also showcase the talents of our state in our music segment. So sit back, relax and enjoy the show with me.
Okay, on to the first segment, we have an interesting person from Singapore. Somehow, though they have never heard of Nagaland before, the Lord had called them to come and encourage the people of Nagaland.
Yes, and likewise, Rev Allan Chan from Singapore also had a call from the Lord and a message to deliver for our people. Let's sit back and listen to what this servant of the Lord has to say next.
I did not even know where Nagaland was in 2003. I knew it was someplace in India, but never knew where exactly it was. And the very sound of the name had actually, it conjured to me pictures of a fairy tale land. I never knew what kind of people lived there and all that. And I didn't even understand the purpose for my being invited to speak there. The only theme I received was, speak on unity. That's a very big subject. And eventually I asked that person, why did you choose me? You could have chosen so many other people, prominent figures who had some kind of international reputation and all that. But they said that after much prayer, they just felt my name being persistently in their hearts. So they asked me, but I said no. And it was only about a month before the whole consultation was supposed to be held. And it was, I believe, through a whole series of God answering prayers, a whole series of prayers that convinced me that I should go, even though I was completely in the dark as to where this place was and what I was going to do. The dates that were suggested for the consultation conflicted with my commitments in Singapore.
I see.
So one of the conditions when I was praying, I said, Lord, if you want me to go, get these guys to change their dates to suit me. It was quite audacious, but
That was in 2003.
yes.
Okay.
The other thing, I said, Lord, I know I'm in a position to afford to come, but since if it is really you who's calling me, get me a sponsor to pay for everything. That's
So it was dates as well as
sponsorship.
Okay.
And then I knew, because the dates I mentioned were Diwali, around Diwali time. And Diwali, to get a seat on an airline to Kolkata is near impossible.
Okay.
Yeah, like half the Indians in the world are going home for a celebration or something.
Right.
So and I knew it was not possible. But in the next 1 week after I prayed that, the Lord answered all three prayers. One of my friends who had not been coming to my church for quite a while, he'd gone to another church, he called me up and he said, hey, I hear you're going on a mission to the refugees. I said, yeah, I usually do that every year, but I got an earlier appointment. Somebody asked me to go to Nagaland without any questions without asking me any questions about what this Nagaland trip is going to be. He said, I'll sponsor that one. I was certainly taken aback by that. And he sponsored for 2 persons instead of just for me.
Okay.
And he said, bring your wife. I'll sponsor both of you. When God answers prayer, He answers much more than what we ask. He's so generous. Our God is so generous, so liberal. Yeah. And then, of course, the next phone call I got was from the contact, brought me the invitation, and he said, you won't believe this. The organizers of that consultation has changed the dates, and to your dates. I said, oh, wow, this is really beyond any human effort.
Like Gideon or...
Yeah, I felt more like Jonah trying to run the other direction. Whereas the Lord was saying, go this way. But he said, yeah, and he had to send this big fish to swallow me with all these answers to prayer. And finally, the lady who usually arranges for my travel calls me up and says, hey, you won't believe this. I did not just get tickets for you and your wife, I got 2 other tickets to Kolkata. I said, oh boy. And so there was a team of 4. Without realizing that we needed 4 people to get a permit to come to Nagaland. God had organized all this himself. He was orchestrating the whole thing, And here was a reluctant guy who didn't want to go. So we went in, and 4 of us. And I guess that leads us to the next point. Because the moment I reached Dimapur, on the way there I noticed this big white church. I've been very interested in church buildings for quite a while. I've been involved with church buildings in Singapore. So after the lunch, I said to this pastor who's bringing us around, let's go to this big church and have a look. We went in, had a look at the buildings, was very interested. But as I came out of that building, something happened. Something fantastic. I just stood at the entrance and I looked around and I said to myself, I have been here before. This is my first trip to Nagaland, but everything looks so familiar, like I've been here before. You know, we Christians don't believe in reincarnation, huh? Yeah, but here I was, standing in a surroundings, an environment which is so familiar to me. And this is my first trip to Nagaland. I said, how can this be? And suddenly the Holy Spirit just spoke to me in my heart and said, you remember, I gave you a vision. While I was in Singapore, about 14 months before I arrived in Nagaland, it was a Sunday, I believe, I remember. Sunday afternoon, I was wide awake. A vision appeared in front of me, like a big television screen in full color. You know, and I saw in that picture, it was moving, but I saw in the picture I was standing still in front of a big white church. And from the entrance of the church, there was a straight pathway leading to the gate of the church compound. And all around the church was green grass. But along one side of the driveway was a row of palm trees. And they were, you know, just swaying in the wind. And the most unusual part was I felt the ambience in that vision. It was cool. That puzzled me because here I see a row of palm trees and the climate was like temperate zone climate. How is this possible? You know, it was very confusing. But anyway, after the whole vision I saw, and the other part of the vision was there was a man standing beside me at the entrance of the church, and he was slightly taller and of a darker complexion. So after that vision went away, I quickly got up and wrote down the details. I recorded the details. I still have it. It was in May 2002. So here I was. The Lord reminded me of the vision, and I said, God, this is where I was in the vision. I was standing in front of a big white church. It was the Nagaland Angami Church, Baptist Church, Nagaland Baptist Angami Church.
Exactly.
And there was this Naga man, he was the secretary of the organizing committee. He's slightly taller than me, darker complexion. To every detail of the vision was so clear and so perfect, you know. It was summertime. May it's quite warm in Dimapur anyway. But the night before I arrived, I was told it was pouring rain, heavy rain. And many areas of Dimapur was flooded with water and all that. When I came, it was muddy and wet. And because of the rain, the temperature had dropped dramatically. And it was cool, and there was a nice cool breeze blowing. And that's why I felt that temperate zone, you know, environment feeling. Yeah. So, you know, it just shows the kind of God we serve. He knows the end from the beginning. Yeah, and before something happens, he knows it's going to happen. He knew every detail, and he had convinced this man who was unwilling to go that he's in the right place for God's purpose. So as I stood there, I said, God, this vision was for me to know that you have sent me here at this time for a purpose. But to that point, I still did not know what it was. But I had to go by faith. Yeah.
Amazing tale, in such detail, you know.
Yes.
Really.